Today, it is May 21st. My name is Vesa Juvonen. I'm a Principal Product Manager in Microsoft 365 community areas, and I'll be your host today. Thank you, David, for helping me last week on hosting this, as a lot of us were in the European Collaboration Summit in Wiesbaden. That was a brilliant setup. If you're not there, we highly recommend going there, and next year they will be in Düsseldorf. Now, in general, meeting people in the community conference is absolutely a brilliant idea, because then you get to build those networks and connections and people who you can ask help or get inspiration and ideas. So brilliant always to follow. Now, anyway, today we're going to go through a typical set of slides. We're going to cover updates on here and there, some news. We're going to get a most picture together. A lot of people always in there. Hopefully, crossing fingers, everything will be working properly today. I should not be running the eDoc version of Teams right now, so we should be fine. And if not, hopefully David can help me on fixing things. We'll figure it out. And today we'll have 2 demos. We don't have 3 demos, mainly actually because there's a lot of pending demos coming right after build. So build is starting today within an hour, and then a lot of our Microsoft employees have been working on demos and storytelling for build. So starting from next week, we are fully booked with 3 demos until we will be on a break, and I will come back on that one in a second. But today we will talk about the Microsoft Graph Connector started by Fabian. Great demo coming up on there. This is kind of phase 2 or step 2 on his demo, which I did a few weeks back from Orlando. And then I will talk about the introduction on latest features and capabilities in Viva Connection. We'll touch extensibility, but also UX, end user capabilities, admin, all of that stuff. So we wanted to have a kind of a demo which is walking through all of the goodness and capabilities which are available within the Viva Connection. A bit about also positioning. Why would Viva Connection make sense if you have SharePoint portals or portals versus Viva Connection, all of that stuff. Good discussion point as well. Cool, let's actually get moving. So a few assets to be aware, just recapping on all of this stuff. AKMS Community YouTube, that is our YouTube channel. We did rename that one. We're going to talk about that one in a second. We have LinkedIn assets available. We have a lot of open source, a lot of samples available. All can be accessed through AKMS Community Samples URL, accessing that sample gallery, which is available for you to take advantage. A lot of URLs, a lot of things to remember. Everything is found from AKMS Community Home URL, where you can find downloadable invites to all of our community calls and much more. Talking about that URL, it has been refreshed. This was already done like what was it, 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago. Anyway, doesn't matter. Beautiful site designed by Stefan Bauer, and also a lot of the technical implementation done by Hugo Bernier behind the scenes. So our MVPs are helping within the storytelling and helping to make stuff beautifully available for you. One location where you can find community call details, guidance, sample solution, documentation, SDKs, a lot of other stuff as well. So awesome to see also the growth on people using that site. There is a lot of use on that. Now, talking about the YouTube channel, we talked about that one a bit last Monday. I actually personally renamed the channel, and that wasn't part of the agreement what we agreed across the multiple organization in Microsoft. And previously the channel YouTube channel was named at Microsoft 365 and Power Platform Community. However, since we're looking into expanding things, we're looking into getting Dynamics 365 involved and all of that, there was a discussion that people don't feel that it's inclusive enough, the name, and then we needed to come up with a name which is suitable for all of the awesome content which will be released there in the future, and the existing content which is already there. So it was then decided that it's going to be renamed as Microsoft Community Learning channel. It is the same channel, same content, even more awesome content coming there in the future at the AKMS Community YouTube URL. Please do subscribe. And by the way, today we crossed 50,000 subscribers on that channel, which is pretty amazing considering where that channel came from many few moons back. So it's been existing for quite a few years already, and there's 6.5 million views within the channel, which is awesome to see that we're providing value with these community call recordings and demos through there. Please subscribe. Always a good way to stay up to date on what's happening. Talking about the community calls, we don't have that reminder there yet. This is the Tuesday 8 a.m. community call every single Tuesday, except, however, we will be on summer break in July and in August. So this time we wanted to do super clear dividers. Last year we started in mid-August, and then people were like, why would you start to call in mid-August? Everybody's still on vacation. Well, not all across the world, but then we wanted to do a clear divider, a clear decision on this year. So we will be on a summer break with this call, that 8 a.m. Tuesday call, within July and August. Now, we will update the AKMS addresses in a way that when you click the join address, AKMS address, you will be redirected to a page which will tell you when we will be back and sharing all of the other assets which are available for you to take advantage. So we do apologize, but it's also, we know that a lot of our community members are taking time off, especially in the Northern Hemisphere, where it is summer right now. It is so weird to always remember that in Southern Hemisphere, it is actually getting to winter, as at least personally enjoying the warm in Finland a lot. Now, on top of that call, we have the Power Platform Office Admin Monthly call, and then we have our Thursday 7 a.m. series, which is either Microsoft 365 Power Platform Community call or Viva Connection SharePoint Framework call. Those will be executed normally. So we will be here every single Thursday, or some of us will be in here every single Thursday. We'll make sure that somebody's hosting there, and we are already booking demos for July within our community members. So there's going to be a lot of cool stuff being shown within those calls as well. You can download recurrent invites as community calls, and you can always check the agendas at the meetup URL, which is AKMS Community Meetup. Now, I did mention community demos, and there's a lot of them. There's so cool demos coming up from the community, and there has been countless and countless of demos throughout the last years. So quite often, the reality is that Microsoft people don't work with this tooling. They don't actually build end-user powered capabilities or end-user facing capabilities. We built the platform, we built the products, but then how do you actually adapt that platform and product is all about the users who are using it or the developers who are developing on top of it. And that's why the community demos are so really important. So we actually see what people are building and how they are adjusting or using the products and tooling. It doesn't have to be rocket science at all. It doesn't have to be open source. It doesn't have to be shared in GitHub or anything like that, but we do not welcome product demos. So you can absolutely, for example, do a demo on latest features in Power Automate, the latest connectors would be a great demo to do if you're interested in doing that. So you can absolutely provide the demos which are focused on out-of-the-box features as well. So it's not about extensibility necessarily, just sharing your learning, sharing what you find, and educating other people. You always bring some new perspectives to the storytelling. Somebody did the demo already 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, it doesn't matter. You have your own story, you have your own background, you have your own diverse storytelling on what you found useful within that tool. That's why it's always welcome to do these demos in future as well. Now, a lot of assets to get started on Microsoft Cloud. Developer program still unfortunately in pause. I'm going to talk about that one in the following slide. A lot of learning modules available from the Microsoft Learn. Quickly in here, right now the developer program is still on pause. We're trying to figure out the official stance on what's happening there. Nothing official which I can share right now. But if you need to get a tenant and you don't have an existing developer tenant, which will keep on renewing as long as you keep on using them in developer usage, you can go to that subscribe URL and you can actually pay or buy, the whole thing. You can buy your own personal tenant. That is $6 in a month. Minimum price, $72 in a year. If you are a developer building something or consultant building something for customers, it is not a massive amount of money. The challenge here was that people started using our free tenants in a wrong way, and we needed to bring a payment factor. So bad apples basically made it impossible for us to provide you free stuff. So if the developer program, or when it comes back, it will have some sort of a payment mechanism on it. What's the price? I don't know. Will it be $6? Will it be less than that? I do not know. We need to wait until that decision is being done. Now, we do have a lot of Microsoft 365 Power Platform shows available, so please do take advantage of PMP Weekly. Mondays is Microsoft, Caruana and Heather, and also the Microsoft 365 Developer Podcast is back, with Jeremy Fake and Andrew Connell. So that's a great combination of new things as well. Now, we also mentioned our sample galleries. Those are available, and a lot of samples there. 1960 plus is current number, and we're getting more and more samples every single week across the the different capabilities within Microsoft 365 and Power Platform. Now, as you find a sample, or you might be contributing, or you want to get started on doing the community stuff, but you do not feel super confident about your skills, we got you covered with Sharing is Caring initiative, and David Warner, directly from LA, can recap what this is all about.
Yes, thank you, Vesa. Woo! So we are excited because Sharing is Caring is back, everybody. In fact, we had our first one in quite a while yesterday. We had over 40 register, and almost all of them showed up, which is amazing because it shows how much passion you all have for the community. So you may be wondering, what is Sharing is Caring? It is a program that is going to provide hands-on guidance to you. That means we are going to join a live Teams call together, and then we are going to work through a task. So the task yesterday was creating a pull request within GitHub. Well, you may be wondering, what is a pull request? We go over that too. So we get you covered from end to end. I know some others have wanted to reach out and help out. Todd's one of them. He's staring at me. I can see those eyes. And we're going to get him involved and a number of others as well to scale this. So we just finished the session yesterday. We'll be scheduling another one for June coming up soon, getting more involved. Again, these are safe space opportunities. We do them live together. For example, yesterday we actually contributed into GitHub so that you walked away feeling comfortable, confident, and empowered and ready to contribute. It is absolutely free. It is not recorded, so you can ask any and all questions, even if you're comfortable sharing the screen. If you run into a problem, we'll walk through it. It's a really great way to collaborate with others in the community and start getting involved. And we're always going to be there for you. So we're going to start up some office hours as well. Now, once you have contributed, we want to recognize you. Our recognition program is alive and well, powered by Credly, giving you those badges that everyone covets and wants. Put on your resume, stick on your LinkedIn profile, put into Twitter, put on your blog, put them everywhere. Some have even gotten a tattoo, which is awesome. But we want to recognize you. So what we do beg you to do is get opted in. If you already are, just be on the lookout for those emails. We're going to have some more going out in the next few days, and we cannot thank you enough. The site is getting a little bit of a redo, so if you go there and it looks a little broken, bear with us. We're getting it fixed because we got that new site. We're trying to align the recognition program to that new site. So just give us some time. But most of you are all opted in. If not, you can still opt in, and we appreciate it. Go get those badges. Vesa, back to you in the Finland studios.
Excellent, thank you, LA, and I'll take over from here. Really, really cool. I have to call out Elliot's comments here. I did the Sharing is Caring thing yesterday, and it was fab. There we go. Thank you, Elliot, on the feedback in the chat. So really, really cool. Getting a lot of positive feedback on those Sharing is Caring initiatives. Now, related on community and related on meeting people and getting get-together, we always encourage people to also meet up in person, potentially if that's possible for you. So TechCon 365 is a great way of actually getting together with the community. Seattle, DC, Dallas is having those sessions. Seattle happening pretty soon, actually June 3rd. It feels so strange to say this almost on a weekly basis, and then all of a sudden it is actually June 3rd. So it feels like time is flying when you're having fun. Now, on top of that, we also have the Power Platform Community Conference coming up in September in MGM. That's in Las Vegas. So really, really cool setup as well. And we are expecting to have a lot of attendees in here. On top of those, there's a lot of community events, which you can all find from the communitydays.org. And these are basically events organized by our community leads and MVPs and other community members. Some of them are free, some of them are paid, some of them are remote, some of them are in person. So please do check out the locations where they are, and are they virtual or are they physical. But great opportunities to get together with the community and really learning again from each other's work. Now, before we go to the together mode picture, let's see if we can actually make that work. A quick recap on the news from Microsoft. Not a massive amount of news today, and that's mainly because, or this week, and that's mainly because a lot of organizations are waiting for the build to happen. Now, build news will be rolling out right after this call. So next week there's going to be much more to talk about for sure. But without the further ado, let's actually move into the together mode picture. So let's see if we can actually make this work today. It feels pixel perfect. This is actually really cool. So let's see how many people we actually fit in today. We do have 50 seats in the room, in the virtual room where we are. I think somewhere in the future we might potentially have even more slots. Good. Let's wait a few more, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. Todd, wow. Oh, now you're again pixel perfect. It is actually really good. So It is really in a great shape to this week. See, the fiber finally is paying off. So a few more seats left. Let's not do quite yet. We can't wait for a few more seconds. I'm going to actually enable my camera as well. Do I get there? Do I get there? Do I get there? Do I get there?
There you are.
There you are. There we go. Yes, you can always recognize me with the green, orange thing in my hand. But I think we are starting to be ready to go. And there's a few seats in the front. Let me do the recording. Start the recording. Let's do some hand waving, everybody. Thank you for joining. Awesome to have you on a call. Excellent. This time this is working again. Really, really cool. Excellent. Thank you for being part of this community, and thank you for joining on this community calls. And your presence is always definitely welcome and super valued. Thank you for that. And I will grab a GIF animation from there. Cool. Let's then go to the actual stars of today, or the demo presenters. So definitely a star of today is Fabian Williams, and he's going to talk about the Microsoft Graph connectors, and then I will recap some of the recent announcements on the Viva Connection across the whole capabilities, what's available in there. But Fabian, I think you are ready to go.
Yes, sir. Let me go ahead and share my screen. And make sure you can see that.
And it's starting, and I can see the screen.
You can see the
That's
screen.
That's an old classic gray.
It is. I said, don't out me. All right. So today we're going to talk a little bit about graph connectors. In fact, Vesa touched on it briefly when he mentioned that this is a follow-up from a session that I did a few weeks ago. I guess it's 3 weeks ago in Orlando. If you have not seen that, I'm pretty sure one of us will actually put a link to the YouTube video of that session. But we're going to start there and then do a recap and then talk along 3 different lines. It's interesting because in the last demo that I did, it was a lot of flash, a lot of you can see things run in real time, and you could see Copilot work against data that was external. And now we're going to talk about, it's not necessarily the boring stuff, but these are the bits that make that work. So not a lot of flash today, but really things that you should consider as you go down this route. And again, today being built, a lot of announcements are going to come out. A lot of the conversation is going to be around extensibility options. So this is actually a great way to actually ground your thought in what you should be thinking about as you hear things a little bit later on, because I'm pretty sure you're going to be want to figure this out for your organizations and the people that you interact with as well. So in terms of the recap, Microsoft Graph Connectors is just 1 out of 2 of the extensibility option. Oh, you know what? I wanted to start my timer. My bad. There we go. So I can actually not run over. 1 of the 2 extensibility options that are available to you when you're doing Microsoft 365 Copilot extensibility. However, that being said, Microsoft Graph Connectors is not new at all. It's been there for a long time because it is basically tied and coupled to the enterprise search experience. So this is something that you would have seen before if you're using enterprise search and you have external data that you also want to show up inside a vertical, inside the search experiences, whether it's inside SharePoint or portal.office.com or wherever. So, whether it's search, M365 or even Context IQ, which is in preview, you have basically your external data source from the bottom, which could be coming from, Salesforce.com. It could be coming from Dynamics. It could be coming from any ERP system. It could be coming from any other ECM system, being pushed into Microsoft 365. And making your external data a first-class citizen along with existing M365 data, so that if you search for something, not only are you seeing it from inside M365, which is where all of your data exists inside your tenant, but also augmented, with your external data, allowing you to basically get a 360 view of everything that you're doing without having to, to go elsewhere. It's basically keeping you in the context of work. So where M365 Microsoft Graph Connectors fit into this picture, you may have seen this graph before. In fact, you may see it a little bit later on today. We look at it in 2 different axes, y-axis and an x-axis. The Graph Connectors really sits on the x-axis, and it allows you to do a lot of things relative to the search experience. The one thing I should say though, whereas the y-axis is where it is in the land of plugins and message extensions and making things that are actionable, the one thing does not have a check mark here. The thing that on the x-axis, which is where your Microsoft Graph connectors live, is more read-only. So it's the ability to bring that data in. It is already indexed and available, whereas on the y-axis, that is just in time. So that's really a key differentiator. But everything about Microsoft Graph connectors is about doing a keyword search and retrieve, doing a lexical and a semantic search and retrieve, getting summarization, ideation, ranking and relevancy, so on and so forth. Now, when I talk about Microsoft Graph connectors, I always say it's extremely, extremely simple. However, it can get complicated in terms of how you approach it. And what we're trying to do today is talk about those considerations. There's only 3 things you need to really consider when it comes around Microsoft Graph connectors. It is around the connection, the schema, and the permission. Now, connection I'm gonna speak about it a little bit loosely, and you're gonna hear me talk about it in 2 different areas. I'm gonna talk about it just as from a context of data source, and also from the context of the connection object itself. And when I talk about schema, you're going to hear me talk about it also in 2 different lenses, because a schema is mapped to a connection, and a schema is really tied to the data source in the end. And permissions, that's just about the individual. So that's completely, I won't say it's different, but we can talk about that in isolation. But realistically, the one thing to walk away from, the value proposition here, is that it only takes 3 things to create a graph connector. And these are the 3 things. A connection, which is basically what allows you to tie back into the Microsoft 365 ecosystem through the Microsoft Graph API to create a connection that's basically going to be the foundation of your data sources. The schema is how you're going to define what that data looks like as it is represented inside M365 in that graph connector. And because all this data could be permissioned, it could be, and when I say it could be permissioned, it could be something that is tied to individuals, and they may see some, but not all, or different people may have a different experience based on the type of data. Or it could be something that is like an intranet site, which is consume only, and you want to make it available to everyone. So it could either be very loose, or it could be very restricted and nuanced, and you manage that in terms of the permissions. So on that note, let's talk a little bit more about data sources. So a question that you may have right off the bat is, what's a good candidate for a data source? And this is often a conversation that will always come up, as soon as we start to think about this a little bit with a little bit more depth and a little bit more maturity, is, what can I bring in? And oftentimes people, the question people ask is, can I bring in SQL Server data? And the consultant in me would always say it depends. But if I'm being honest and forthright with you, if you're looking at this, the perspective that you should be thinking about is that flatter data is better than hierarchical data. What do I mean by that? So if your data is hierarchical, which means it's coming from a relational database management system, an RDMS, whether it's a SQL Server, whether it's Oracle, whether it's something that is parent, child, grandchild relationship, that may not be out of the box an ideal candidate, but you can do work to get it there. And we'll talk about that later on when we talk about the connection and the schema. But if you have something that's flat, it's a lot better. The other question is, how much data should you ingress? Are you taking the entire RDMS system or the entire ECM system and bring it into M365? Probably not a good idea either. And you will get into the conversation, because even though you are able to do it, performance and then basically the user experience could basically be what you'll actually be sacrificing based on the amount of data that you're bringing in. The way to think about this is that you want to create an experience that just brings in just enough information at the right time to allow the person to basically have the information that they need to perform that task in the context of work. Should they want to click on it and then pivot over into use a deep link to get into the source system, that's probably the experience that you want. And so this is not a hard and fast rule. This is just something that you have to think about. This entire talk track is about things that you should think about. Let's now move into connections. As I mentioned, connections is really tied also to data sources. Now, the developer in me always wants to build. So a lot of the demos that you usually typically see me do is around building custom connectors. Why? Because I love it. I love creating stuff, and I love keeping my dev skills up. See me do stuff inside ASP.NET. You see me do stuff inside Python because I love Python. But that is not your entirety of your options. However, if you want more control over how things are displayed, if you need to do, especially if your data source is hierarchical and you want to do something a little bit more more nuanced and more applicable to your end users, maybe a custom connector is right for you. Consult your doctor. That's a little plug there right there. I can't see faces, so I'm just laughing to myself with that one. It's like an American commercial. Anyway, out of the box, Microsoft provides you several different connectors that you can actually use. And you'll notice that some of these here are Oracle SQL Server connector. You'll see the Azure one and the Azure SQL on the bottom, and there's even Microsoft SQL Server connection that is over there on the left-hand side. But it can be as simple as a file share as well, or even a comma-separated value file. But also you may see ISVs also have skin in this game. You see some ServiceNow connectors. You also see some Jira Confluence connectors that are there as well too. So ISVs are also part of this experience, and they have these connectors that are out there because a lot of people use this inside their organization. So considerations are build on your own or leverage the ones that are already there. And the experience is quite easy once you get inside the M365 Admin Center. You're able to to walk your way through it. If you are building it on your own, security is certainly top of mind, especially in today's time. This is when you're creating your own custom connector, you will have to create your own application registration inside Entra as an app reg. And you basically will be using, it's on the next slide, you'll actually see it in two items, one for connection and one for external item. There are options to choose where you can say external item.read write.all or external items.read write.owned by. I will put a link inside here, but basically you want to be as secure as possible. And by using the owned by, it allows the application that you create to only make changes within that application that is owned. So it can't necessarily bleed over or leak over into elsewhere. So it's just good practice to use that one. I usually, even in demoware, I don't use the read write at all. I basically use the read write but all the owned by. And this is what it looks like once you do your app registration and the API permission. These are just the two items that you need in order to get a graph connector up and running. So there is a balance that we need to strike. I mentioned that I'm going to come back to this topic. Where is the balance in terms of the amount of connections that you need and how you should think about your data and your user requirements? And the answer actually is in the question. It all comes back down to your user requirements. Now, should you bring everything across? I already talked about the fact that if you're being performant, the answer should be no. You should actually bring across just what you need in order to facilitate that. But the question that I usually get next is, are there benefits to have one large bucket or many small buckets? And there is a trade-off, right? But the math is the math, right? So if you have one big bucket where you're bringing across everything and you're stuffing everything inside one big schema and making it into one big connection because you want to create one big index, that's certainly one approach. Another approach is to be a little bit more purposeful. So if you think about it from the lens of maybe even Salesforce.com, you may have your cases, your contacts, your orders, different modules inside a Salesforce experience. You also have different modules inside ServiceNow, and that could represent one particular connection that you may want to have. So one big bucket, many small buckets. But what you should also consider is that as you create these connections, there is a one-to-one mapping. It's one schema, one connection per schema. You'll see me come back and say this a different way a little bit later on. So hopefully that gives you some food for thought in terms of what you may want to do. But also the other thing to consider as you do connections is that you need to also consider the frequency of change. As you start to build these things out, you may say, okay, is this a transactional data or is this something that can wait end of day as a batch job? And that may basically allow you to think about it also in terms of, should I break into one connection or multiple connections? Because you may have something that's highly transactional and that you want, as soon as that change happens, to be represented inside the index. So we offer two different models for that. One is a scheduled pull model, which allows you to sync over X period of time, daily, hourly, or maybe every 15 minutes, and something that is more event-based or push model. So as something changes in the source system, you have a webhook that basically senses that change and pushes that data right back into the index and makes it available immediately, or close to as immediately as possible. And you have to decide that. The one thing I'll tell you is that the lift is up to you. Microsoft is not providing this webhook for you. You would need to create that webhook that's looking in the source system and creating that connection into the other system as well. So when it comes down to schema, we want to think about it a couple different ways. I'm going to show you another slide, but I wanted to actually anchor on this. There's a lot of text on the screen, I know, but realistically, it's there as a takeaway so that you can actually have this later on when you're watching it on your own. But the way to think about this is that you get to define how your data shows up inside of the experience as well. It's not just you give it to Microsoft and then we figure it out for you. You are still in the driver's seat. You are still the pilot, and another cha-ching, and but you get to control that. So from a search perspective, you have 4 different items or attributes that you can actually manage in terms of the schema. If you light up search as a checkbox, then that property, if it's available as a part of either the title or inside the text, it'll show up. Query allows you to basically be a little bit more specific. I know that inside the title property, there is something called X, in this case, enterprise, as you see on here. And by doing it that way, by doing query, providing the property and something, it specifically looks there. So from a performance standpoint, basically say narrow my index, it's actually going to be more performant for you. Retrieve, that's a given. If you want it to show up, you got to make sure that you have the flag for retrieve. However, think about it. You may not want certain things to be show up. You may want it to be searchable, but not retrievable. So I want the person to be able to ask a question about it, but not able to see the result that's coming back. And that, you may have your own reasons for that in terms of what, the overall experience. Refinable, this is more akin to what enterprise search is. It basically allows you to manage that stuff in the vertical. But the way to think about this, and actually this screen actually talks a little bit more beyond the searchable, queryable, retrievable, and refinable. It also talks about labels and aliases, which are also important when you think about Microsoft Graph Connectors, especially in the context of Copilot, because these are key. So the labels piece of it is extremely important because we one of the configurables in creating your Graph Connectors is the ability to create semantic indexes. So even though you may have a ton of stuff that's coming in, you may the semantic, we're not looking at everything. We're going to basically prioritize the things that you actually have labels around. And, the title is going to be important. The created by is going to be important. Yours is going to be important. Body is going to be important. And you want to make sure that you label these items in your schema appropriately. As well, we also know that when you're mapping things to M365, the way that we create our taxonomy in terms of how we name things is not necessarily going to be the same way that you do stuff on your side. So having aliases defined so that you can map what you call stuff in your world, similar to how things are going to be called in the Microsoft world, is important. And it also allows for you to basically use your own jargon, your own lexicon, as you're doing these natural language queries inside of Copilot. So it says, okay, I understand what we're talking about ticket type, but ticket type basically means work item type. So you basically be able to do that as well. Similarly to how, even though I'm living here in America, I had a British education, so I still call things holiday rather than vacation. Something as simple as that. Next up, click. Oh, I need to click through all of these stuff. I talked through them already. So as you're talking about schemas, we should also talk about, well, what are the questions that you should have? What if my data is siloed but hierarchical and complex, meaning that everything is in one system, but it is very parent-child, grandchild relationship? You should basically think about that, because what you may want to do in that sense, and also, even if it's interconnected, the answer is probably still the same, is you may want to do some pre-processing. So this now is where you may have to make a decision that I need to do this as a custom connector, because I need to either aggregate disparate sources of information into one object. I'm using object here loosely because my properties are going to be inside my object, and I may have a body that's basic, or a content field that's basically an aggregate of a bunch of different fields. Or if something is very hierarchical and complex, I need to denormalize it and make it a lot flatter, so that it can fit into a schema. And even among that consideration, consider that you don't want to make your schema too big as well. Not because it can't handle it, but because performance is going to be impacted impacted by that because you're stuffing stuff into the schema, and the physics of just time. When you want to do an insert of even a single item over, it's based on the schema. You're stuffing X amount of properties across the wire to go into M365 index. So be very thoughtful about that as well too. And again, remember, schemas are bound to the unit of a single connection. As of today, as of today, that's the best way to say it. Right now, if you need to make a change to the contract, which is basically a schema, the schema is actually a contract, you need to blow away the schema, blow away the connection, and put it back. That is unfortunate, but that's just the way things are today. The final thing to talk about are permissions. What I have here is actually on the left-hand side is what I've taken from the docs. The link is there. I'll put it in after the talk track. I'm not looking at chat. If there's something in chat, I can't see it. Apologize. I'll do it asynchronously after the talk. But on the right-hand side is a sample that I created as a part of Waldeck's adoption.microsoft.com. I did a sample that used Python and in Jupyter Notebook. But you can see in my sample how my ACL, my access control list, is really, really simple. It's basically saying ACL type everyone, value everyone, and grant it. However, on the left-hand side, you can see how it can be a little bit more nuanced. It can basically be around enter ID. It can be enter ID around a security group. It can be enter ID around an individual. You can also have an allow list and an explicit deny list as well too. But what if you don't have you're not using enter ID and you're doing something a little bit, you have another identity provider, a different IDP, whether it's Okta or something else, and it doesn't conform to an enter ID. We have the ability to do external groups as well. But similarly to when you have to make a decision around how to do your synchronization, whether you want to do it a pull or a push model, and you have to make a decision and creating your own webhook. If you're doing something bespoke and you're doing something that's not enter ID, you have to handle that mapping. Considerations there are important, because if with enter ID, if you're managing something, as we always say, through a security group, because either you just do it to the group and you move people in and out of the group, so you don't have to manage the person at that granular level. As long as you're moving people in and out of the group, that's going to be referenced whenever they try to do a search. It checks the group. Are you in there? Show it to you. Are you not in there? Don't show it to you. If you're doing this via an external group, then you need to manage that, because we won't know what changes happen behind the scene, and you're going to have to manage people in and out of that group and also send that information back across the wire so that we can respect that change as well too. But that's basically it. It's quite simple, but the way that you think about it, the way that you build it, can be complex. So the call to actions, these are the things that developers should go do. Go out there, apply semantic labels to your schema. Make sure things are searchable so it can be affected in the prompts, and fill in the text in the content element. This is where I'm saying before that if you have either disparate systems that you want to boil down into an aggregated amount, put it inside there. We have a link for that as well. And the admin goes to is, like I say, you don't have to create stuff from scratch. Go to the connector gallery, find the ones that Microsoft have out of the box, find the ones from our vendors. We'd also say there's also a setting to do stage rollouts where you don't have to, once you create this connector, you don't have to just put it out there to the masses. You can actually set a flag for a stage rollout and scope it to a specific amount, a set of people, and test it with them and make sure you get a good adoption rate before you roll it out to the masses. And, plan your use cases and plan your prompts and tests, because this is an experience, it's a journey. We're always iterating and we're always trying to make things better. With connectors, on that note, actually, when you're using Copilot, whether it's for graph connectors or otherwise, there's a thumbs up, thumbs down feature, which I know you see. If you do thumbs up or thumbs down as a part of your Microsoft Graph Connectors journey and do hashtag connectors, that actually comes back to the team, and we actually learn about whether the experience is good or not so good, and we're able to tune from that. And you are in control in terms of what you share. You can either share the prompt, share the response, so that we can understand, hey, when the person said this and we showed this, they actually wanted this, so we can make a better experience. So we're all in this together, and we want to try and make it easier for you. I'll also put these resources inside here, but I know I'm at 21 minutes now. Vesa's probably mad, and I need to end it right here. But thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Fabian. Really, really cool. It requires much more than that to make me mad. So definitely, all right. You should know me better.
I do.
Yeah, I'm a pretty difficult person to get mad. Anyway, so on the next stage, on the half of the next half of the demos, I'm going to talk about the introduction on the latest features and capabilities in Viva Connection. So let's actually get started on that one. So as said, let's talk about the Viva Connection and how does that actually work and what are the latest capabilities and features. And the reason I wanted to do that is that there's so many cool features in the Viva Connection which have been already rolling out throughout this spring. You can do extensibility, you can adjust that based on your use cases, branding, all of that stuff. And we will announce more within build as well. So you can imagine Copilot extensibilities, so Copilot options in the Viva Connections, also in plans and all of that. So it's good to have an overview on what's actually available and how things can be used, and also quite importantly, what is the use case of Viva Connection? Because that's something what we get also feedback on. Well, why would I use a Viva Connection versus the SharePoint intranet, or why Viva Engage versus Amplify? And we were kind of thinking this in this kind of 4 different triangles. So this is a one pie way of avoiding dividing that. So Viva Connection is really the company app for me accessing my personal information, my personal tools, my personal actions, and all of that. So it makes it super easy based on my profile to access the relevant information for my day-to-day work. Viva Amplify is more for the communication management, for corporate communication, so really controlling and creating those corporate news, and other communications throughout the company. And from a Viva Amplify, you can then target different audiences and all of that. Viva Engage is more community and social within the community, so within the company, so you can actually share your thoughts, engage with other people in the community. And then we have the intranet, which is more about surfacing that corporate communication in a pixel perfect format, especially with the direction where we are heading with intranets nowadays. I'll come back on that one in a second. Now, let's talk a bit about the Viva Connection. Just to recap again on what is it actually for. There's a lot of changes in here versus what it was when it got rolled out, and that might be a bit confusing. So, and that's the reason why we want to recap always these things. But really, the Viva Connection is there to get you access to tools and apps which are relevant for you. So, depending on your role, depending on your company, depending on your division or your organization, you will see the relevant tools and actions for you, including the news articles, announcements, and all of that. It is also customized for your organization, so you can adjust the icons and fonts and branding and all of that stuff within the Viva Connection, make it really visible for your company based on your company business requirements. And we'll show some examples on that one as we move along within this journey. And then it's personalized to the individual. And again, I'm repeating this because, again, the Viva Connection is the personalized towards the individual. Then the intranet portals are more the pixel perfect branding within a company. I'll come back on that one in a second. So if you think about the intranet versus Viva Connection versus portals, what is actually the design model? What is the model what Microsoft wants people to think through? So the intranets and SharePoint is more about company mission, brand, and shape. So it is highly branded. It is the company mission. Corporate communications are happening there. We're publishing, creating content publishing in the SharePoint. We could create the content in Viva Amplify as well, or in the SharePoint. And then the Viva Connection is really the employee support and satisfaction. So me using any device, I can easily access the relevant applications which are available based on my business requirements. So really targeted for my role and my division and my team. And obviously combining them both makes actually a lot of sense. And that's where, and coming back on that, where it actually really makes sense is more on the following slides. So how we think this is that the top intranet and the intranet and portals is really the pixel perfect storytelling about our brand. And that's what we're seeing where the intranets are heading. So you can actually do really, really complex and beautiful looking designs. You can adjust the design based on the company design language. It's navigating the whole entire company, search the whole entire company, tailored news for me, and I can easily access that directly from my portal site. Now, again, the Viva Connection is really about those personal news, about the personal community, employee experiences center apps. So, for example, accessing my pay information or pay slip information, or requesting time away through that application. So having a one location, again, using a tablet or mobile or desktop, I can access the same applications super easily, and then able to perform my individual asks and tasks towards the company. Now, we've been releasing a lot of features within the past months around the Viva Connection, so I wanted to cover some of this stuff. So we do have 50 unique home sites and VC instances. VC means Viva Connection. And what it means is that we can, in a one SharePoint tenant, we can do unique branding based on the division or organization and based on their business needs. So as an example, something like in Microsoft case, we do have divisions like Xbox or the gaming division. So Xbox is gaming division, but they're individual brands which they want to be reflected differently directly within Viva Connection or within a home sites. And it makes sense. We are able to then target the individual brand, individual Viva Connection experience based on the organization where the user is working on. And we can then target that news, target the theming, target the cards and functionalities based on those settings as well. So that's actually really, really cool. And within one SharePoint tenant or within one Microsoft 365 tenant, we can absolutely do targeted configurations even in the local level as well. So one way of really making that Viva Connection personal and based on your brand is that you're able to adjust the logo for that application, which is a feature in Microsoft Teams, but you go to the Teams admin, you are able to adjust that based on your business requirements or based on the branding. So you're able to reflect every single instance as a unique logo within the top left corner, as an example, in the Microsoft Teams. Now, we are rolling out a lot of new capabilities as well. We talked about within this spring the themes. The themes are there to make that the Viva Connection to be reflected based on the branding of the company or branding of the division. So you can easily adjust the experience and adjust not just the background picture, but also the theme color, which is visible within the icons and within the buttons. So that's always visible in here. And as part of this theming, we will roll out soon backgrounds for all of the inbox themes. Right now, if you're looking in, would like to use any of these backgrounds, you can actually go to that URL, which is visible in the screen, which is AKMS Viva Connection backgrounds. And from there, you'll see what will be sooner or later as part of out of the product. So whenever you're setting a theme, we can also select the optional background for that theme, or you can do something else based on your business requirements or based on company requirements. And of course, by the way, you can definitely create your own custom themes as well, because that's definitely supported within a Microsoft 365. Something also which we released relatively recently was the custom fonts. This is part of the Brand Center, which is rolling out right now worldwide gradually. So you'll see those settings to be available within the Viva Connection. So based on, again, the company brand, you're able to adjust that UX experience because typically every single company have their chosen font, like in the case of Microsoft is Aptos nowadays, which is relatively new setting in Microsoft, but every single company have their own custom fonts, and using the custom fonts capabilities, you're able to adjust again the experience based on the company branding. We'll also introduce relatively soon, this is not yet out, but for the news section within the Viva Connection, you will have much more precise configuration options. So you're able to select which news are available in which personas and how way the news are being surfaced. So a lot of options and settings there as well. That's coming relatively soon. We're recording demos on this one later this week. And then I think we'll start rolling out this one in the mid-June. So you'll see some of this being available for some tenants faster and for some tenants a bit later because it's rolling out in sequences. And of course, you can do adjustments based on the dashboards. So you can adjust the dashboards based on audiences. And this is the way you do it, basically defining what are the capabilities available for individual role or organization. You are using audiences, which are available in Microsoft 365 for doing that. And therefore, you'll only see the relevant cards for that particular role or for that particular organization based on, again, this configuration settings. So you can really do low-level profiling and targeting in here as well. And then the final piece, which actually relatively recently got updated to support audiences as well, is the resources. And this is basically the easy access of the relevant company links and information for the individual. So as an example, culture conversations or benefits company store, those typical links what people need to get access on, they can easily be listed on the resources section. Now, what it then means is that we're able to build really, really compelling experiences within the Viva Connection, which are really targeted on the branding. And again, they will be then reflected and visible across the desktop, tablet, and the mobile experiences. And based on the company branding, we can easily change the experience and design what the company wants to have there with all of the different goodies and capabilities. And we are, of course, able to extend this as well if we are developers. If we want to do development with low code, no code, or pro code experiences. So we have a lot of cards available from the out of the box. We're adding more and more cards all the time. You can do also low code capabilities there, and we'll have a look on all of these settings in a second. Or you can do pro development using SharePoint Framework, which is getting a lot of investments again. Related on Viva Connection and also related on Copilot. It's going to be interesting to see the future on that one as well. So definitely a lot of options for you to design the dedicated dashboard for your company or based on the division requirements. We recently also rolled out the Card Designer 2. I did a live demo on this one a few weeks back in the community course. So I'm not going to do that today, but basically what it means is that you have a much more powerful UI designers. So you don't have to do code necessarily. You can do adaptive cards, and then you are able to associate the adaptive cards to a dynamic API information. So the Card Designer V2 supports API calling APIs and then showcasing information in the UX without writing code, and that's actually a really, really cool capability as well. And of course, if you are looking into investing here more, you have the Pro Developer Storyline with SharePoint Framework. SharePoint Framework 1.19 introduced chart cards options, which we have demoed in the community call as well, and you can find videos on that. And then a final piece before we go to the actual demos and see all of this live is really the bot-powered ACEs. So this is more for an option for existing Microsoft Teams ISVs who have already invested already for Teams bots, and they want to also surface the same bot directly within the Viva Connection dashboards, because they are adaptive cards which are visible in the UX. So you can definitely bring your existing bots to Viva Connection as well. It's using the Teams manifest packaging, so it's a familiar way of doing implementation if you chose this option. Now, we do have a lot of time for the demos, which was the objective. So let's actually have a look on how all of this looks in practice and what are the settings and how we can do things within our demo tenants. So first of all, what I wanted to actually quickly start with is an admin UX. So one thing what people are not necessarily aware is that Viva Connection really supports multiple Viva Connection dashboards. And you can actually find those Viva settings if you go to the admin UX. So from here and then where is admin nowadays? There's the admin. So if I click admin, that's the UX where I'm actually landing into, where I actually was. So let's do that one more time. And then if we go to show all and settings, we can actually find a Viva option in the left menu. And that's where I'm going to click. And then let me zoom in a bit. We can actually see all of the different adjustments and configuration options for Microsoft Viva. And in here, we can, for example, see the Viva Connection. And in the Viva Connection settings, we can, for example, create and manage Viva Connection experiences, Viva Connection, install the Viva Connection to your organization, and pin Viva Connection to Teams, step-by-step guidance on that. If we go on the Viva Connection experiences, we can actually see that within this environment, we do have 4 different dashboard designs. And the cool thing here is that we are able to target these dashboards. Let me do, not that setting. What I wanted to do actually is setting, how do I set the audiences? There we go. There we go. So I can adjust the audiences settings here, and that basically means that I can then create, for example, in the case of Microsoft, we can have a different experiences for Xbox and different experiences for the rest of the company, or however we want to group the people. It really comes back on how do we identify the audiences and what kind of divisions you have within a company, and then you're able to divide what's available and where. And that's really, really cool. Based on audiences, again, you can filter that option out. Now, from a UI perspective, let me go in here. Let me use my example identity here, and I will show a few examples of those settings which are available. I'll zoom out a bit. So we're not too close. A lot of options on the branding. So now if I go to change the look capability, we can adjust the theming. So as an example, we could make the the team, red or purple, whatever. But more importantly, if we want, we can absolutely introduce custom themes, which are then used into company branding based on the company brand guidance. So let's do a green one there, or let's do the orange one and apply the settings and save that one. Now, in our case, I'm just adjusting the theme in here. I can absolutely also adjust other settings. So let me go in here and let me, not that one. That one is the one what I wanted to do. Change the image, and then I could upload my own custom image for the header section of Viva Connection, which will be then visible within the desktop, tablet, and in the mobile experiences. So in my case, let's do stock images, and let's find a nice looking image, something which would make sense in the header section so that we can see that it's visible in other areas. Trying to avoid a duplicate, which I'm using in some areas. That looks nice. Let's add that one there, and then we are able to reposition the focal section. Where do we actually want to put it? Let's put it over there and set the focal point. And there we go. Now we have a custom branded background over there with a custom branding and with custom orange. Now, you can do a lot of different settings here. In my case, in this particular environment, right now, the change to look does not yet provide the font option. It will be visible in here as it starts rolling out for the Viva Connection within upcoming weeks. So that's a really, really great option as well. And of course, that branding, these settings, all of the theme settings, they are all reflected across all of the different devices. Now, something what's also really cool here is that I can actually do customize on the dashboard. And what this means is that me as an individual, so first of all, let me actually rephrase that one. Me as a dashboard operator who has the sufficient permissions, I can modify and add additional cards, and I can really create what kind of cards we want to have visible within this UX, and then we're able to modify the settings of that card based on audience settings or based on the configuration options what the card has. So I could target, for example, this card to be only visible for a specific set of, again, audiences based on the audiences which I have in my company. Now, I can do that and set up that for the whole company. Now, really cool feature is that, well, if the end user doesn't like some of the capabilities which are available, they can customize this as well. So if the end user wants to have that for themselves only, not for everybody within a company, the card layout should be looking a bit different. They can actually shuffle the card dashboard based on their own business requirements. And that provides a lot of flexibility for the layouts and for the end users. And this works in all of the different devices as well. It's really, really cool capability. So now I save, and that's my personal experience. So really, really cool. Now, we do have also the announcement feature here, which is a great option for doing ad hoc announcements on top of the news capabilities. We do have different additional layouts and settings and options available. So if I, for example, go to the Contoso Air, we can see different branding, different layouts, different features, capabilities available. And we have the resources section in here as well. Now, from a timing perspective, there's so much I show here, but what I wanted to actually show is quickly our card experience. So in here, now I'm in that same dashboard which I just was in a desktop. We can see that there's similar branding, there's a similar background colors, there's the theme colors. I can access the announcements from the company easily directly within my mobile. I'm using here the Android emulator to be able to understand and test these things. And you can really imagine that, for example, for, let's say, airliners, as the people are walking in the plane, you could have functionalities and features directly within their mobile phones, as for the frontline workers to stay up to date what's happening in the company, but also making their work easier. So we can surface the LOB, the systems which the company is using directly within their mobile phones, directly within their teams, and then they have more insights on what's happening within a company, even though they're not sitting in front of their desktop all the time. They could access their personal information, for example, pay information, or whatever the personal requirements are, and then there's a lot of different options for individual industries what we could actually implement directly in here. Before I actually close up this one, I also wanted to quickly show, because I don't think we have anything confidential, this is how the Viva Connection looks in Microsoft as an example. So a lot of interesting things. Apparently I have 2 assigned tasks which I do, but for example, I can really easily go and request time for my personal time for a paid holidays or holiday time from here. And you can imagine that I can do this from a tablet, I can do this from my mobile, I can do other things as well. Check, for example, the holidays which are available. I can report a security concern super easily. Rather than trying to remember which system I need to go to do all of this stuff, I can just go to Viva Connection and all of the relevant information is available. And it's personalized. Not that I would actually go to the cafeteria in Espoo where the Finnish office is, but it's actually targeted to me based on my personal location, which is really, really cool. And I can access all of that information in here as well. It's pretty cool. Now, and of course, the final quick demo before we close up. We are a bit late on the schedule. All of this works, of course, also in tablet. So just show you in a tablet view as well. So it's targeted on the tablet, works in Android, works in iPhone or iPads as well across the stack. So really, really cool stuff. Good. Let's actually then start summing things up. A few resources available for people to get started on using the Viva Connection. We are updating these resources all the time. A lot of assets, a lot of guidance available across the whole stack. And hopefully this story helped you to understand what is the value of Viva Connection, the art of possible, and what are the latest features for that. And then it's time to wrap up. We'll do that within 30 seconds or 1 minute. So this time, thank you, Fabian, on a great demos on the Microsoft Graph connectors, so showcasing the advanced capabilities, considerations there. Next week, we will at least have Bob German and Mark Windle coming here. Bob is being built today, doing some demos, and he's going to talk about the latest on Microsoft Copilot plugins and update from Microsoft Build. And then also Mark Windle is going to share updates on SharePoint Embedded, because there's going to be new capabilities which are updated, shared within the Microsoft Build. I cannot share them yet in here. We'll update the titles for those demos as we get closer. Also, do join on our Discord server. We do have 2,100 members already there. A lot of engagement across the community, helping each other. Please provide us feedback, super important for us to be able to continue doing these calls also in the future. And a quick recap, all of the videos will be always published at AKMS Community Videos or AKMS Community YouTube. Subscribe there today. You will find this call within there within 24 hours. You cannot access the call directly from the chat, even though that would be implied within the chat at some point. But wait until it's published on YouTube and you are able to double check the recording from there. Next call, 28th of May. And that's it for today. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Thank you, Fabian, for the great demos one more time today. And have a safe and awesome rest of the week. We'll be in touch. Bye-bye.